Hello, and welcome to the Sunday Pub.
Hello.
Another Sunday Pub. It's been a while. I've missed you all. I've especially missed two of my favorite BookTube ladies, Derry and Evie. Good to see you both.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you.
I was going to say, I feel like it's been, ages since we've seen you, let alone had a
time. Yeah, maybe a month or a bit longer. Yeah.
So are you okay? Is everything all right?
Yeah. The mood has been a bit of a struggle lately.
I figured.
Yeah.
Well, we were thinking of you, so
thank you. I appreciate it.
I hope you weren't sitting there going, nobody loves me.
Of course I was, but I knew logically that was actually bullshit. So yeah.
I know. That's why I'm allowed to mock it. Exactly. I know that's exactly what we do when those moments overcome us. We sit in our rooms and we go, nobody loves me. And
and people line up outside your door waiting to
going, we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, this I know. Yeah. This is all, it is known, as they say.
It is known. It's hard work being alive sometimes.
Yeah. Good to see you, Ida. Long time loyal pubber.
I reckon.
Anita. Hey, Slumpy Smurf. I've actually been sympathizing with you, Slumpy Smurf, lately. And maybe regretting naming you Slumpy Smurf because I've been extremely slumpy myself lately.
Oh,
I haven't been reading much.
I think she's transferred that slumpiness over to you because I feel like Anita's finally getting out of it.
So, I got that
impression.
I got that impression. Like once I named her that, she was like, "Okay, you can have it."
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start reading again. I've been reading very little lately. Raf is here. Good to see you, mate. Orza, K2, Terry, Morton, all the pub regulars. It's cool. Orza, have I been enlightened to the awesomeness of Donut? I'm not gonna, like, in Derry's presence, I'm not gonna start slagging off Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Excuse me, and also my presence.
I'm not alone.
And Evie's presence. I wasn't aware that you had gotten into the cult as well.
Listen, Matt. I'm just saying the biggest selling point, if you align to my taste, the fact that I of all people who does not like fun,
doesn't like happy books,
adores Dungeon Crawler Carl.
I have a strong feeling. I have a strong feeling that I really should give it another try. I listened. Like when I say read, I'm pedantic about meaning with my eyes. I don't mean that that's better or worse. I'm not saying that listening is not taking in a book, but I listened to it, which isn't so much my thing, but I was enjoying it. I was kind of enjoying it. But the thing I found really difficult about it, and this may be the difference between me and some people who are really into it, is I'm really into video games. And watching or listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl just made me think, Okay, so I'm listening to someone describe playing a video game. Why don't I just play a video game?
Yeah.
So
I've heard that before, but it does go more into the story rather than the game element as the story progresses. The game is kind of the reason to be telling you the bigger story.
Yeah. And I will say that I eyeballed it. I read it physically. And so I don't know if maybe that would be a difference. But the irony is actually I had the opposite of experience. Like I was getting, like I've been playing Dead Cells, like a, rogue RPG for ages because I love those. It's, the whole point is to die and like, come back to life and play again. So Dungeon Crawler Carl gave me the same satisfaction of playing Dead Cells and Hades. So like I actually played less Dead Cells and Hades while I was reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl book. Okay.
Yeah,
scratching the same itch.
It was when I DNF'd it, like I didn't finish the first book. I was just like, every time I start listening to this again, I want to play a game instead of listen to it. Yeah. So I put it down.
I have heard that from other readers. And again, I think that's kind of why I have latched onto it so well, in that it's not actually a more normal, regular lit RPG, because it moves away from focusing on the game so much as the characters and the bigger story.
I mean, certainly in the first book.
It's still there, but
in the first half of the first book, it's very much game mechanics. Like half of
I needed that because I'm not a gamer. I had to learn what this was and what these things meant for the characters. And that doesn't go, I mean, the crawl is still the heart of the story.
I still
becomes so much more to it.
I didn't have any problem understanding why a lot of people like it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was, there were a lot of smart things about it. Just for me as an avid gamer, it was just like, I want a game instead of reading this book.
You have to do the real thing.
I feel like I'm wasting time where I could be gaming.
Yeah.
While I'm reading this book. But I also went out of it thinking, maybe if I try and eyeball read it next time and give it another go, but I still
really think you'd really enjoy it when it gets to the darker sort of storytelling, because it gets really dark. Like that humor that he builds in really early, you need that by the time you get to sort of book 3, 4, definitely by 5, because otherwise you're reading horror.
I think
it's dark.
I think that darkness is there from the beginning. At least it was for me. Like
because you're focusing
it was pretty dark in the very, very beginning. I mean, it's not really a spoiler since I think it happens in the first few pages to say aliens come and destroy everything.
Everything. Yeah. Almost everybody dies in the first
pretty much kill the earth. So I mean, Raph has also slowed down his reading, but has been listening to more propaganda. I don't know what that is. Don't listen to them. You mean, Anita, listen to them. Don't listen to them about Dungeon Crawler Carl. Like, don't bother.
This is the same woman who doesn't enjoy all of Realm of the Elderlings, Matt. We don't agree with Anita's opinion.
No, Anita doesn't. Anita doesn't like fun.
But we used to say that about Evie.
It's true.
That's true. Evie's converted to actually liking fun.
It's all right. I'm teasing Anita because she's been on the teeter balancing what she likes and doesn't like that matches me for a really long time. And then recently we've kind of gone, oh, actually, she doesn't like quite a lot of what I love. So yeah.
So I was actually talking to Derry yesterday about the reason for me liking Dungeon Crawler Carl is not because it's fun. It's similar to Pratchett in that there are fun moments, there are humorous moments, but it's not a fun or humorous book or series. There's such depth and darkness to it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. And because the situation is not funny. The things that
It's
become
horrible.
joked
It's
about. It's gallows humor. It's we're laughing because if we don't, we're going to cry. And it's
I mean, I had a lot more of a feeling that it had. I would kind of contradict you, Evie. I mean, there is a lot of darkness, and it's not only light humor, but it reminded me a lot more of Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide than it did Pratchett and Discworld. Like Hitchhiker's Guide is the same thing. Like it begins
Guide, I think,
with aliens trying to build a highway through the earth, right?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of Hitchhikers. And then you've got this guy who gets pulled out. It if I'm honest, it felt a little bit like a Hitchhiker's ripoff because the setup is exactly the same as Hitchhikers. Exactly. Like humans have no idea that aliens exist. Aliens come and kidnap.
Actually, I will agree.
One guy who is a fish out of water and is learning all of this weirdness as he goes, and so on.
You'd have known that this was going to happen because if you'd put in your objection at the right time, you'd have been fine.
Yeah,
similar thing. Yes, I get that.
It's
a
really,
and there is
at least the
moments
setup.
of complete surreal nonsense.
Yeah,
because of the beginning of the dungeon, and you meet all of the craziness.
Yeah.
But
the setup is exactly Hitchhikers.
It has far more structure than Hitchhikers. Matt Dinniman, I think, has gone into this with a very clear idea of where he's going. And the foreshadowing has been done exceptionally. I have seriously considered putting him right up against Hobb for character writing.
Okay.
That's how much I'm enjoying this.
I certainly didn't get that out of the first book.
That's why I'm saying I'm sure if you keep going, there will be something to really bring you in. Eyeball it. See how you go. If by book 3 you're like, actually, I just don't care, then okay, let it go. But by then you're sort of getting genuine character building moments, and you're beginning to see what he's capable of. And
but also,
let me just really quickly say this, Kathy. Good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. Yeah. Kath was Nerdy Kathy, our Australian friend, was hosting a Gardens of the Moon chat yesterday, which was not possible because she was feeling a bit under the weather.
I didn't realize that because I can't watch those because I haven't read Malazan yet. So
true.
So I'm always aware that they're going on, and I'm like, oh, those are such cool people to be reading with, but I can't. So I'm sorry to hear you're not well.
I hope you will get there.
I hope so.
She is also fallen in love with Carl.
Yeah. And I imagine for very much the same reasons. So
yeah, pretty much everybody.
I'm properly surprised by how impressed I am. Because I have read Hobb so much and so often that I consider my benchmark for that pretty high.
Yeah. And, but like I said, I've had for a while a feeling that maybe it wasn't a DNF, it was a
not right now.
Not right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
A waffle. I've decided the soft DNF is a waffle.
Oh, I like it.
A WFL will finish later.
I like that. MFL may finish later.
You're not going to pick up Andrew Wizardly Reads NFN, not for now. He's trying to make NFN happen. It's like fetch. It's not going to happen.
I think waffle is so much catchier.
True.
Sorry, Andrew. Like, but yeah, waffle seems much better to me. Yeah, Eva. It's literally a video game. He is playing a video game. He is a real live actor in a video game. Which is kind of
by the galaxy.
Which is kind of what litRPG is.
Yeah. I have tried some more in the genre since loving this, and they have focused far more heavily on
the game,
making the game work for it. Rather than the game is just happening and we've got to deal with everything else as well. Yeah. And I haven't enjoyed those as much. So
Yeah, overall, like every time I heard for a long time already, like I talked to Brian a lot, so we've certainly talked about litRPG, and every time anyone has ever talked to me about litRPG since a few years ago, I was like, that sounds dumb for me. That just as an entire genre, that sounds like I would think it was stupid.
Yeah.
So I've never really tried any of it. And then Dungeon Crawler Carl got so much hype. I was like, okay, it seems popular outside people who are really into the niche.
Yeah.
You know, like Brian liking Dungeon Crawler Carl means nothing to me.
No, because that's his genre.
Because he loves the entire genre,
his
right?
Space, yeah.
Not because Brian's opinions don't count to me, but like he just, if it's litRPG, he probably loves it.
Yeah.
But, you know, when someone like Evie says she actually likes it, I'm like, what?
I don't just like it. I love it.
Yeah, we're in love with it. We are totally in love with
like
this series.
Evie falls head over heels in love with Carl and his donut.
And yes, Raph, very much so. It is very much so a Dungeon Crawl Classics ripoff. Because it's very much leans into those tropes. And who was it? Bookborn did a wonderful, wonderful video in the last couple of weeks about why she's loving Dungeon Crawler Carl so much. And she did a wonderful breakdown on how well Matt is keeping the stereotype without becoming, keeping the genre and the tropes without becoming stereotypical. And she's much better at explaining her thought process than I am. She's one of the most beautifully spoken people on BookTube.
She's
highly recommend her video on it. Highly recommend. So.
Aha, Propagandy is punk rock from Winnipeg. That would explain why I don't know anything about them. I'm not really up on Canadian punk.
Yeah.
But
Carl's rogue class kind of becomes important later because it accesses different things outside of the allowed game.
Aha. Hello, Alicia. Alicia is here. Scottish Fool is here.
Hi. Sorry, just making his way through Realm of the Oldlings.
Yeah.
So
I've seen him elsewhere. I didn't realize he'd never been to the pub, but glad you're here. Kath is feeling better.
Lovely.
Cool.
Brian and Prometheus.
Is DCC titled that as an homage to Dungeon Crawl Classics? Maybe.
I think Terry already said that. She said yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Dungeon Crawl Classics.
References to everything in. He's a bit Terry Pratchett again in that he's referencing a lot of things from the past. A lot. I mean, you called it even.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
I'm not
sure you actually know what Dungeon Crawl Classics is. Dungeon Crawl Classics is a role-playing game, which isn't old. It's current. It's like, but it's really niche. Like role-playing people, a lot of them wouldn't know it.
No, he's very on the pulse, I think, of
DCC.
To be fair, dungeon crawling, like that's all. Like I don't think Dungeon Crawl Classics. They're the ones that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
I don't think created dungeon crawlers like as a.
No. That comes from D&D. That comes from D&D.
Oh, it does. Okay.
No, he's. Yeah, I think
D&D. There were adventures that were written for D&D that were, as a group, were called dungeon crawls because all it was a really big dungeon, and you would just go from room to room, and that's a dungeon crawl.
Yeah,
yeah. And then Dungeon Crawl Classics was called that because it was going back to. It was sort of a throwback to the roots of D&D. Where dungeon crawls were kind of what you did.
Yeah, this leans into it in the sense that the history of the crawl that Carl is in, its own history is important to what's happening now.
Okay.
And he has to kind of try and figure out what's happened in the past to make it work now. So there's a there are layers, Matt.
It's an onion.
I love this story. This is. It has all the things. Has the characters. Has the layers. Has the depth. Has the growth. It has all the things.
Dungeon Crawler Carl series is like Shrek.
Yes, it's like an onion.
Layers. Like an onion.
But it's not like Dr. Horrible in that it's only got 3 layers like pie.
I think this is the
Did you watch that yet?
What? Dr. Horrible?
Did you watch that? Yeah. I've
sent
you the link.
I saw it like years ago. Like at least 10 years ago. So
who am I thinking of? It might be Tori.
We were talking. I remember actually on a pub a while ago. We were talking with somebody, and Dr. Horrible came up, and somebody had no idea what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah.
By the way, Samwise, I think that's like the second time you've mentioned it. You've recommended it to me. If you do it a third time and I forget about, or like third time, and you get the timing right, I might actually read it. It takes 3 times.
Yeah.
So before Anita explodes.
Sorry, Anita.
I've been consciously ignoring her just because I thought it'd be fun. Oh my God, Derry's reading Robin Hobb.
I know, right? What a shock.
Who is that?
To be fair, I haven't really been reading her at all for a long time. But yeah.
Cool.
Rereading for the first time in far too
long. I'm reading Return of the Crimson Guard, which is
that like allegedly bad one?
People say that. Like the for those of you that don't know, the Malazan Book of the Fallen is written by Stephen Erickson. He and a friend, Ian C. Esselmont, created the world together, and they both write in the world. And this is the I think it's officially called the second, because Knight of Knives is another book which is kind of before it. The second of what are called the novels of the Malazan Empire.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't like that book, apparently.
Yeah, that's the one that people tend to go doesn't fit.
I've heard that a lot of people are not so crazy about this and are not so crazy about Knight of Knives. I read Knight of Knives and I quite liked it. The thing is, it feels, first of all, Stephen Erickson is such an amazingly good author that it's really hard, I think, to be his buddy that's writing in the same world.
I imagine so.
Because of course you're going to be compared constantly. And it's hard to keep up, I think, with Erickson as far as writing chops goes. And usually people read the Malazan Book of the Fallen, the 10 books, and then they go back and read these as a way to fill in different bits of lore, because there's parts of the world that kind of belong to Erickson and other parts that kind of belong to Esselmont. Yeah. And the Crimson Guard, like Erickson, in the 10 books, there's like a chapter where the Crimson Guard pops up. That's it.
Okay.
He mentions them here and there, but like the characters that are actually part of the Crimson Guard, they pop up in like 1, maybe 2 chapters and then disappear. And you're like, who the fuck are those guys? Well,
so it's Spider-Man in the MCU?
Kind of.
But they belong in the same universe, but they don't usually hang out together.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm reading. What are you reading, Evie?
So I'm technically reading Tales from Earthsea by Ursula.
But that's been going for a while.
No, technically, actually, it's not. I started it last week, or late, like Saturday, not yesterday, but the Saturday before. Or last Sunday. I can't remember. Anyways, I've been reading it for about, a week, a little over a week. Got a couple stories left. But technically, assuming we sprint today, I'm going to be putting together a cat litter cover thing for my cats. So I'm going to be productive, though.
Okay.
So it's,
okay.
Fair enough.
Speaking of cats, where's Fitz? How's she doing?
Where is Fitz? There she is. She's over there on her cat tree, just laying there, wondering why.
Just slowly breaking it.
Yeah, exactly. She's still slowly breaking it. I still need to buy. I found actually a really cool one, which actually screws into the wall.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a good one.
And it's basically just up one really solid post, and then at the bottom and
Right.
top, it screws into the wall, and then it has little platforms off of the post. So
Nice.
and it's specifically built for bigger cats.
Big cats.
So
I saw.
she might
went through
not
a
be able to
phase-
destroy.
Fingers crossed. I went through a phase last year before, where I was trying to build things for my friend's cat because he's old, and a lot of cat things are just he require more agility than he's capable of. And I really wanted to be able to let him get high because he can't climb things.
Yeah.
And I found that there's this whole industry around catwalks inside of houses. And some of them are extraordinary.
Yeah.
And yet one of the ones I thought the cat had the most fun with was somebody carpeted the banister in the stairs of their house. So the cat could just go up the banister.
Hang on it.
And this cat was running up it like it was a sprinting track. It was glorious. And to see them get so comfortable and familiar with it that they would just leap off the landing and land on the banister halfway down the stairs. You're like, I mean, way out of Motsy's league, and certainly not something that, I have reason for now, but I was impressed.
That's a lot of the reason that I have a cat tree where I have a cat tree, because it serves as steps for Fitz to get up on top of the bookshelves.
Yeah.
And I've got bookshelves that are they're not right next to each other, so there's a little jumping involved, but she can get on top of one and then get across the entire living room on top of the other ones. So, which of course is one of her favorite things to do.
Nice.
DCC is like Shrek, is what's going to put the series higher on Scott's.
Hey, whatever gets you reading it
is
where I'm at.
I'm not saying that donkey is equivalent or I should say donut is donkey's equivalent, but
she's way smarter than donkey.
Similar vibe. Like the Shrek donkey dynamic is very much
right.
Carl
it is
dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're taking it too seriously. We have to make you laugh now. So
Ida liked Return of the Crimson Guard. That's good. Yeah, it is one of the ones of the Malazan books of the Malazan or novels of the Malazan Empire. It seems to be the one that the most people are like, not that excited about.
I also get the feeling it's like the Rain Wilds in Realm of the Elderlings, and that it's not in itself a bad thing. It's just
compared to
with the rest.
Yeah,
it's
in the flow of everything else. It's really, like I said, it's really hard to be the guy who has to write a novel that goes in between two Erickson novels. Like,
I mean, I obviously I haven't even read Erickson, but is the style like hugely different, or are they both coming from the same kind of place?
Yeah,
thematically, or
they are. I mean, a lot of the themes and stuff are kind of, I'd say, are kind of baked into the world, and they created the world together, and they're in the same world. His writing style, I would say, is a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward. Erickson's, there is a lot of suggestion.
Wiser for me to start with
rather
than go into Erickson?
No, I mean, it might be from the text itself, from the prose style. It might be easier for you, but I think as far as the story and the world and the lore, it would be a really bad idea.
Okay. Fair enough.
Gardens of the Moon is the right place to start. Okay. And then you can do what I'm doing. Generally, I say to people, if you're gonna read Malazan, ignore Esselmont to start with. Just read the 10 books.
The 10, yeah.
And at the end of that, if you're really keen, then you can go and read the Esselmont, which fills in holes. Like this one comes between book 7 and 8 in the 10 books.
Okay.
Chronologically in the world, but I would never say read this one in between 7 and 8 for your first read. You know, I'm doing it because I'm rereading everything. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I will keep that in mind because, again, I do intend to get there eventually. but I had such a hard bounce off of Sun Eater because of the world building I needed to do in the first few hundred pages. I was like, whoa, okay, I'm clearly not ready for Malazan yet.
No, I think Malazan would be a challenge for you. Yeah, it would be, because it's, if anything, it's worse than Sun Eater in that.
That's what I
that
figure.
specific respect. Yeah,
but it's giving me a benchmark. So okay,
I will say
to
bring it back to Dungeon Crawler Carl, I also am technically reading the third Dungeon Crawler.
To bring it back to Dungeon Crawler Carl, to just piss Anita off.
True. It's true. How dare we talk about the books we're enjoying?
How dare we?
Although I have to say that Tarnal getting into the last 2 Dresden books so that he can join my stream next week. I'm really thrilled about that. That's awesome.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I am not that far with Dresden. I did what I often do, like years ago, when I think there were only 12 or 10 or something Dresdens. I read them every day at lunch, and I read nothing else until I'd finished all of them.
Right.
And it was just like, Dresden was my reading life for a couple months. And then I was like,
I'm full.
I'm so sick of Dresden. I hope to never see Dresden ever again. It was just too much.
Yeah.
And I started rereading them. And I'm up to like the 3rd or 4th one, I think.
Oh, so it's starting to get interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
this is the Malazan effect.
Yes, I've seen this a lot.
Yeah.
And it's why eventually I want to get there.
Evie is looking very skeptical. I know, Evie. I know.
Because you've bounced off it, haven't you, Evie?
On the flip side, I DNF'd Dead Husky. So
yeah.
And my reread of
There's still hope for you yet, because I DNF'd Gardens of the Moon twice before I actually finished it and then binged all 10 books. So
it's really proof that it's, sometimes not for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in all seriousness, I just Erickson's writing style is just not for me. Like in his
and it's like if I was to write a dictionary definition of not for everyone, I would put a picture of Malazan next to it. Like as I'm reading Malazan and loving it myself, I'm often thinking, man, I know a lot of people who would not get into this.
And to be clear, and I would hope and assume and hope, Matt, that you would agree with me on this. Just because Erickson or Malazan doesn't click with somebody doesn't mean that reader is a lesser reader. Like a lot of
that's right.
Malazan fans.
I'm not 100% sure I'd agree with that, actually. No, I'm kidding. Yes, of course, you're right. No, it doesn't mean you're a lesser reader.
I have your address, Matt. I can send food to your door.
You could.
Yeah,
you could.
Be wary of the next half dozen knocks on your door, because you just don't.
There are the thing that really pisses me off, and this happens a lot with Malazan, is people, not people like you, but people will not get into Malazan, and then they'll attack Erickson. Like, there are a lot of people who are writing things like, he can't write characters, his characterization's awful, he has no idea about structure, his prose is, and they're throwing all of these heavy criticisms, which are objectively false. Like, they're not personal taste. They're not saying, I don't like the way he writes, or I couldn't relate to his characters myself, but they're making like these theoretically objective, but objectively false statements. And that annoys me, but I totally understand that a lot of people do not like Malazan, and I understand why. What am I drinking? I'm not drinking whiskey. I'm drinking cognac.
Ooh, fancy.
It's my favorite cognac. It's Brastad, the SOP. It's good stuff, and it's not that fancy. I mean, I have whiskeys that cost twice as much. This is a pretty basic cognac. It's just, I tried a lot of not very expensive cognacs to compare them, because I was like, I would like to have a cognac that's just like, I can drink this anytime, and it's not scary expensive or anything, and brass stud is what I settled on.
Fits the bill.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I didn't know either, Kathy. I'm reading the chat going, why hadn't I subscribed to Mac? That's terrible. I will find you because I clearly should be subscribed. I'm horrified that I'm not already. I'm so sorry.
Subscribed to what?
Mick Scarfield.
Garfield.
Oh, Mick Scarfield. I didn't know he had a channel either, to be honest.
I'm so sorry. You need to be louder in these chats and let us know.
Well, yeah, just
we would
promoting
have
things
subscribed earlier
in general.
Yeah. I'm
Crimson
so
Guard was so much fun.
Terrible.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
I've spoken to you for so long.
The thing, maybe it's just because, like, if you get into Malazan enough, the one of the main things you really love about it is the crazy lore. The first time the Crimson Guard was mentioned, I was like,
who are these guys?
Okay, these guys are interesting. These guys are really interesting. And Erickson is like, here's the Crimson Guard, whoop, and then they're gone. You know?
Okay.
So having a whole book that is kind of focused on them is really, really cool to me. Mac, you should
put your channel name in the
chat. Put a channel name at least so that we can find it. Although I guess it's just your name.
Yes, it is. And I looked, his last videos were from 3 years ago. Mac, you need to post.
Yeah, shut up. And if you're going to tell me about your videos on your channel and you haven't got any in the last 3 years.
Also, I can't say much. My last video was from like 7 months ago. So
my last non-Sunday pub video was from about 7 months ago, or maybe more. I don't remember. I think it was actually June. About a year or so. Yeah.
It was one of the J months was the last time I did an actual recorded video.
That wasn't January.
Done plenty of live streams. It wasn't January. It was the middle of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think mine was May or June or something last year. Yeah. It's
been a while. I prefer to have a big long chat with somebody about,
exactly,
and get into it. I like to really get into it.
Enjoying that stuff as well. Yeah. Otto is in the middle of Deadhouse Gates and it's getting insane. Yes. That is true. And yeah, the thing with Deadhouse Gates is pretty much everybody. I mean, not everybody.
Except Evie.
Well, Evie's Evie. But a lot of people are like, whoa, this is hard to get into. And then at some point they're like, this is now hard to put down. I don't know how to not read this anymore. But yeah. Let's sprint, shall we?
Good plan. I shall open my curtains because the sun has risen.
It's 22 the hour. So let's do a slightly longer one and go till past.
All righty.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can make a cup of tea and yeah, good stuff.
Cool. So we are reading until past. Everybody enjoy your book and don't forget to mute yourselves, please.
Derry, I think you're unmuted.
Hello. How is everybody? How was your reading? You were apparently not muted, Derry.
I was. I'm not now, but I was. I must have dropped my book on it or something. Sorry. Everyone.
Yeah, that's all right. I also have an audio control, so I turned you down.
Okay. I didn't realize I was making noise.
People were
Apologize.
listening to you read.
Well, I read quite quietly, so that's all right then.
Yeah, no, there was probably just a background noise and people noticed it. Tom is reading House of Chains. Yes, nice. House of Chains is crazy good. The beginning of House of Chains is actually, we were talking about this earlier, I think before Tom was here. Mm-hmm. People who are ignorant accuse Erickson of being a bad writer who can't write characters, can't do characterization. He actually responded to that.
Oh, really?
By writing the first 200, 300 pages of the House of Chains, because up until that point in Malazan, he constantly changes characters, like constantly, lots of characters and back and forth. And at the beginning of House of Chains, he said, "Okay, I'm giving you one character
for a big chunk
for 250 pages." And
I see.
We're focusing just on this one character who is going through a lot and pretty much became most people's favorite character in the entire series, Casa Orlong. Right. So, yeah, if you're at the beginning of House of Chains, Tom, I envy you. It's a remarkable first experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you find characters like that, it's... Oh.
The crack has been mighty here, indeed. I'm glad to have the pub back. And here's a Fitz.
Yay! Hello, beautiful girl.
She's grumpy.
Oh, she's so pretty.
She's so grumpy.
Why is she grumpy?
Because she decided like 2 hours early that I should feed her.
Oh, I see.
And I didn't. And now
how
it's
very
half an hour.
You?
Half an hour left before I should feed her, and she's getting really cranky. And
she's like, I'm actually hungry now.
Yeah, she's chewing on all my cables.
Ah, yeah, that's naughty.
Yeah, she's really, I mean, obviously she's pretty smart. She's figured out, Fitz, stop it.
That she's figured out.
She's figured out all of the things that really annoy me.
Yeah.
And that will make me pay attention to her.
Yep.
Like there's a rubber mat which is under her water bowl.
Yep.
And she'll sit next to the rubber mat and just go foop, 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 foop on the corner. She'll just flip it up
so that it slaps the ground.
So it slaps the ground. And she'll just do that until I yell at her.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And then she'll wander around like, oh, maybe I can chew on this cable. Oh, look, another cable over here I could chew on. Oh, I might go chew on that cable. Oh.
Yeah.
Also,
that's when you know they're clever.
Yeah, no,
they know how to annoy.
She's nothing.
That's clever.
Nothing like stupid. Absolutely. Dead House Gates. Yeah, also very good. Oh my goodness.
Yes, because that's Tori's favorite one.
Ava is reading The Hymn to Dionysus by Natasha Pulley, which is a mistake. I get the feeling that Ava doesn't like books. Every time I talk to Ava about books, she's like, "This is horrible."
Right. Just haven't found the one.
Yeah, well, and it sounds by the name of it, I don't know if this is the case, but it sounds like it's part of the Greek mythology retelling wave that's currently happening. A lot of people seem to be doing Greek mythology retellings, and some of them are really good. Like Song of Achilles was really good.
Yep.
Although I didn't like Circe.
I haven't read that one.
Which was the next one.
Circe.
I didn't like Cersei at all. It's just like
But I
Cersei
haven't
herself
read
was just
Song
so
of Achilles.
whiny. I had
did
a really
find
hard time
Cersei
sympathizing
whiny.
with her. Yeah.
But that worked for me.
Okay.
It was like it seemed, I don't know what it was. It seemed less toxic to have her be whiny rather than malicious, which is how history usually, mythology usually treats her.
Yeah.
So I liked that change of viewpoint. But I haven't read Song of Achilles, so I haven't read anything else by her that I could compare them to.
Yeah, I don't have any question that she's a good author. Like that wasn't the problem. I was just having a really hard time enjoying spending time with that character. And Song of Achilles is more the main character is more sympathetic. The main character isn't really Achilles, it's Patroclus.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gay love story in a way between Patroclus and Achilles.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, Patroclus is also, it's interesting. He's also like kind of a loser character. I mean, next to Achilles, how could you not be a loser?
Yeah. It's not a good comparison for most people.
No, and I mean, Patroclus is like this normal dude, you know, he's a pretty normal guy. The most unnormal thing about him is that he's Achilles' companion, you know, and Achilles is anything but normal.
So, yeah.
Song of Achilles is good, except the last 8 pages, which ruined the whole thing. I thought the end was heartbreaking and touching, Thornall.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Madeline Miller knew what she was doing. Yeah. Madeline Miller definitely knows what she was doing. Anita, I don't know what books you actually read, but Patroclus, compared to Cersei, is anything but whiny. I mean, he's also whiny, no question, but Cersei beats him well out of the park.
She does have good reason to be whiny, though, to be fair.
Yeah, sure. But she
and here's the thing, is it just our modern sensibilities saying that she's whiny? Because she had cause to feel hard done by. So. Yeah.
I mean, it's also, there's a character you've probably even heard of, even though you haven't read Malazan. Everybody talks about Felison.
Yes. And either hating or loving the way that story is handled.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how Felison is written, and the character complexity and everything. But I hated spending time with her.
Yeah,
right. And she's just someone I wanted to get away from.
I haven't read it, but I get that. I understand that. But that you can really dislike a character, and mean seriously dislike a character, but love the way they're written. I mean,
exactly.
In Realm of the Elderlings is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I hate him as a character, but I love the way he's written.
Yeah. He was a bit different for me because a bit different from Felison, because Felison, every time Felison popped up, I was like, I don't want to spend time with this person. I would almost want to skip her section. I know she's well written and everything, but she is so unpleasant. I just want to get away. Okay. Whereas Kenneth, I found super entertaining, except when he was being a super evil asshole. I mean, there's a couple of bits where he was super evil. And overall, he was actually kind of fascinating and entertaining, and not exactly fun to be around, because you know that he's always gaslighting everyone. But
everybody.
But yeah, it was more enjoyable following him around than it was Felison. Where's your Oedipus retelling? Well, actually, Mitch,
Game of Thrones.
It's
the Lannisters. Hello.
True. Well, also like a straight up mythological retelling.
Yeah.
Oh no, that wasn't Oedipus. The woman who wrote, I'm forgetting her name right now, but she wrote The Counselor, which I really liked a couple of years ago.
E.J. Beaton.
E.J. Beaton, yeah, exactly. Thank you. And I was in contact with her a while ago, and she was, because that was meant to be a duology. She was talking about a second book, and I was like, "Ooh, I really like The Counselor. When's the second book coming out?" And she was like, "Well, I've gotten distracted. I want to do a Greek mythology retelling." But it wasn't Oedipus. It was, I'm forgetting names. But yeah, she's doing a apparently. I haven't talked to her in a while, but she's doing also a Greek mythology thing.
See, I mean, I do quite like the Greek mythology surge that we've had, excuse me, in the last few years, partly because I mean, I'm an older person, as we know. I loved the Greek myths when I was younger, and then there was a whole period of time when nobody really paid any attention to them at all. So these retellings are new to a lot of young readers, and I love that they're being written by all these different perspectives, and yet you can still get modern authors telling traditional stories. I love Stephen Fry's series of books around the Christmas. I love them.
I read those as well, and I like those a lot.
They're brilliant.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a far richer sort of feel for all of those interwoven stories, at the same time as acknowledging that what we've got to base these on contradicts itself, and some of them disagree, and we're going to choose to pick from this bit of the story and that bit of the story and make this one narrative.
Well, it's the cultural storytelling background of the West.
Yes.
Like everything since then,
it grew from that. Yeah,
has grown from that, and like half of everything since then has been directly inspired by that.
And this is our character stereotypes and tropes.
Yeah.
You know, that we've got.
I will just add, because, and obviously I'm sorry for coming back late. I was in a groove.
It's all right. You were being productive.
Yeah. It's fine. Like all I have to do is put the doors on, and then I'm done.
Yay.
So I will just say, a lot of people, I feel like, when they talk about the mythology retellings, whether
just for you, Evie.
When they talk about like the mythology retellings nowadays, they think like, oh, it's something new. No, Zora Neale Hurston was doing mythology retellings back in the 1930s. Moses, Man of the Mountain, and the just recently discovered Herod the Great, albeit it's biblical rather than ancient Greek or mythologies.
Hey, we could say as well that the Romans were doing Greek retellings.
Yeah, yes.
All of Roman religion was a Greek retelling.
And Ursula K. Le Guin did a mythology retelling of Lavinia. Like, it's people like to,
It's not new. It just comes in waves.
Yeah, it comes
and
in
we're
waves.
in a wave. We're in a wave right now.
Yeah, it's a generational sort of swing.
Yeah, and people like to crap on the waves. They're like, oh, how dare another Greek retelling? It's like, okay,
they all are.
They all, yeah. Like, stop complaining. Yeah. Are you reading these Greek retellings? And stop complaining about them. Like, good God.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can really.
No, I don't think there's anything
like Shakespeare and go, oh, this is a Greek myth retelling.
Totally.
They all have these core kind of storylines or plot lines that all relate back to one or another of those Greek tales.
Yeah.
And I love that. I just love it. And which is a fascination for me.
It's also just indicative of the cyclical nature of storytelling and how unoriginal we are as a human species. Like, we're telling the same stories over and over again, just in different ways. That's all we're doing.
To appeal to a slightly different audience, or at a slightly different age, or come from a slightly different background. It's actually funny, we're talking about, deistic pantheons at the moment, because I literally, the last thing I did last night before I went to bed was watch somebody doing a reaction, and their cats are called Odin and Freya. I was like, clearly you like Norse gods. Have you seen a TV show from the 2010s called The Almighty Johnsons? And it's the Norse gods who are living a current incarnation as a normal family in New Zealand, but they have all those inherent gifts. Like, you've got Loki, you've got Odin, and they have those gifts. And it's one of those drama comedy things. And it's anyone who's got an interest in Norse gods will find it entertaining, because it's, if you take those gifts from those ancient stories and put them in a modern perspective, you've got, the god of chance and luck betting. That's how they make their money, because they can make those 1 in a million shots. They can have those moments of insane luck. So I enjoy
I remember what it was. The EJ Beaton, the thing that she said she was working on. I don't know if it's even been announced as something that's coming out. I have no idea how far along it is. But she said she was working on a thing about Eurydice.
Oh, okay.
From Eurydice's perspective. Of course, it's the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, but she was doing the Eurydice sort of as the main character kind of perspective, I think.
Okay.
I know that Madeline Miller, at least as of a couple of years ago, said that she was working on a Persephone retelling.
Okay.
Oh, and we've had a million of those, because it fits into all of the tragic romance tropes.
I am here for it, as long as she.
Oh, me too. I love them.
I mean, I've never read Madeline Miller, but as long as she makes Persephone the badass that she is, and poor Hades, the simp boy, the gloriously simp boy, it'll be great. Because that's why
you should read.
They make an appearance in Dresden, Persephone and Hades.
I can't personally recommend Circe, because I just didn't really enjoy it. A lot of people did. I know I'm in the minority, but I would. Was that George?
Yeah, that was that. Yeah. She likes to. So she's literally right by my computer in her strawberry.
In her strawberry.
Yes. What she likes to do is she likes to scratch her ear when it itches, but she also literally scratches it to the point that she hurts herself. Like, right. And she won't stop. So
poor thing. Oh, John watched the old Marcy Johnsons.
I would recommend that you read Song of Achilles, Evie. I found it very good.
So my intent was to read the Song of Achilles after I read the Iliad, and then Circe after I read the Odyssey, and then Lavinia after I read the Aeneid. I read the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I still haven't not read Song of Achilles or Circe. So.
I still have back here in my pile. Actually, this might also interest you. I have Metamorphoses by Ovid. And I was like, why not go back to actual primary sources,
Yeah.
And really get the root stories instead of all the retellings. And this is the Penguin cloth bound. So it's beautiful. It's semi nice. Like a lot of their stuff is. It's nice because it's cloth bound. It's not so nice because it's not really good quality cloth bound.
Oh, okay.
Well, but the other thing I got.
Yeah.
Do you know this edition?
I do.
With the funky plastic and the gorgeous illustrations.
Yeah, Tori sent me her copy.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't have to pay.
It's so nice. Really pretty illustrations by, I'm going to look up the guy's name. John Coulthart.
Mitch, I am not excited for Christopher Nolan's Odyssey because
I did not know he was doing that.
Matt Damon is playing Odysseus. Tom Holland is playing Telemachus.
Okay, I was excited because I like Chris Nolan's films. I'm less excited with those actors involved.
Zendaya is going to be in it. Lupita Nyong'o.
Maybe.
Hold on.
Could be.
I say this, and I actually like Matt Damon in a lot of the roles he's in.
Sorry.
Matt Damon is awful in a lot of things, and he's been pretty good in a number of things.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved him in The Martian. He carried that whole film.
Yeah. He's been really good in a few things, and he's just been like embarrassing in a number of things. Yes, Ron, I know Metamorphoses is a Roman retelling, but the Greeks didn't write down that much.
Boy summer.
As far as like
That's funny.
a collection. Yeah, exactly. Book of the Usan also has a Frankenstein-ish.
Can we get a nickname for you? Because I have no idea how to address you.
I don't know who this is either. Because
Just give us something we can call you.
He's in Alan's Discord as Timu.
Timu. Okay.
Temu.
Okay.
Cool. How can you not like Tom Holland as Spider-Man? He's perfect as Spider-Man.
Tom Holland
other things that I struggle with.
So allegedly, Anne Hathaway is going to play Penelope. Nah, just nah.
Yeah,
I've seen her do some. I loved her in, and I hated everything else about it, in Alice in Wonderland. She played the White Queen, and she was just diabolical. I really liked her in that.
I remember that. Yeah.
Everybody else was really over the top, and she just somehow was creepy as all hell.
Yeah,
I really liked her in that. But,
Ooh, Matt, I just saw your comment. The autobiography of Red is a queer reimagining of the monster Girin and Heracles, which Matt King conveniently sent me. So it's gonna be next on my list. I'm gonna read it.
Nice.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I also find it kind of funny that they're going to do like all of this Greek retelling, and it's like,
there's no Greek people.
Did you hire anybody that came from anywhere near the Mediterranean?
Yeah,
they don't even need to be Greek. Maybe a darkish Italian, or Turk possibly, or no, nobody, just a bunch of white people. But yeah, I mean,
Lupita Nyong'o and Zendaya are not white, so
no, but
yeah, just
Mediterranean
everyone in the rest of the cast is.
Yeah.
And
white.
I understand it. Unfortunately, white people with known names do sell movies better than
and
Mediterranean people no one's ever heard of. So
you say that, but some of the most successful things have come out of ensemble casts where nobody knows anybody. If the story's strong enough to get you in the door, it can make people.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it looks very risky.
Oh no, I get the point.
When you're a guy running a production company, a studio, and sitting on a mountain of money,
That's true
for Nolan. He should be able to convince them that actually I want these people. And I mean, it's not like he's nobody.
Yeah,
Steven Spielberg gets away with it.
It was the same though. Did anybody see Chaos? Kaos on I think it was on Netflix. It was a limited series. It was the Greek gods playing out their story in modern times, and Jeff Goldblum played Zeus.
Yeah, nice. I saw the ads for it, and I was like, "Oh, I want to."
And
watch
it was
that,
really good.
Netflix.
It was really good.
Goldblum's delightful and everything.
Yeah, I mean, he always plays Jeff Goldblum, basically. But luckily, Jeff Goldblum playing Jeff Goldblum
works.
Super entertaining. It's fine. Him playing the guy in the Marvel universe. I forget the guy's name, official name, but
he was great.
The emperor of that planet.
Yeah.
He was also just Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good because Jeff Goldblum's fun.
He is. He somehow manages to make mock of himself without making it silly, and is silly without making it ridiculous.
He's self-aware.
Yeah.
Very self-aware.
Yeah, he's extremely aware that he is Jeff Goldblum and is playing Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah,
there's no getting around that. Yeah, I agree, Anita.
Yeah, exactly.
There have been some things like also Slumdog Millionaire and
that has gone on to massive success.
And Everything Everywhere All at Once. which was also
Parasite.
mostly Asian, and there
Parasite was amazing.
Yeah, there have been a number of things that were just like unexpected large successes.
Yeah.
However, I think if you look at the numbers and you
they're not
compare
as
any one of them
blockbustery.
to any big Marvel movie like the Avengers or something like that, they weren't that big a success, but they were unexpectedly larger successes.
Percentage-wise, they probably are greater successes because they had lower budgets to start with, and they've come back with that much bigger a return on investment. So for a Christopher Nolan film, which you're probably looking at the top end of really good, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're all excellent, but they're all really good.
There's a good chance.
He's getting a decent budget, but he could be saving a little bit of money here by getting a lesser known cast. I say this like I have any input in the industry whatsoever. I could possibly make a difference.
They didn't consult you?
They didn't. I mean, how rude.
Chris didn't see. When Chris called me, I told him to call you.
Well, you must have given him the wrong number because I didn't hear.
Oh, wow.
It's Did anyone see Bahubali? No, I haven't seen that.
I have not even heard of Bahubali. I'm sorry. What is it? Anita saw it, of course, so I assume it's an Indian movie. But I know nothing about it.
Tippy Cooks. Yeah. Daniels. Yeah, he's exactly right.
Yeah.
It takes courage, I think, for anybody in Hollywood to break out of any particular mold.
And I mean the
creative now.
Yeah, and the big difference is we want creative, interesting stories, and they just want to make money. And as far as the just making money part, they're still doing fine. They're not doing anything stupid. Okay. They're still making money. they're not making more interesting films, but they continue to make money.
Well, so it's the creativity versus risk reward. So the more it is, the more risky
which is kind of the awesome thing that we're really starting to see the benefit of now. As you said, Chaos that was made direct for Netflix. Yeah. The streaming services are really coming to the fore now with let's try and be creative. Let's find a niche.
Although I would contradict you a little bit. I would contradict you a little bit
deliberate.
And say, but it's deliberate in that they have more data than we've ever had before.
Oh, absolutely.
And they can see exactly the point at which something becomes unprofitable and then it gets canceled. So
it's not even so much that it's not profitable as a show, it's that as a show, it no longer generates new subscribers.
Which is profitable.
That's why the two season kind of thing. And I imagine that it's changing the industry to the point where you're getting stories written for 2 seasons.
A lot of it is also
and I like that idea.
If you give somebody a contract, like actor, you give them a contract for a show.
Yeah.
And you give them a contract for 1 season. They renegotiate after 2 seasons, and they get a little more money. If you go much further than that, you have to give them a lot more money to keep them them on.
I mean, you
so it ceases becoming so profitable.
Yeah.
And so I mean they are, because it's smaller budgets, it's smaller, like they have much less like promotional marketing overhead. They're able to do more creative things and try things out.
I also think too, it must, I mean, again, what do I know? I'm not in Hollywood. I'm in New Zealand, for crying out loud. But I imagine as an actor, knowing if you're going into one of these shows, you might only have to spend 3 years doing it. You're not going to get as typecast as if you ended up working on Friends when you were 19.
Yeah.
You're going to have a far greater chance to do really varied roles during your career in reasonably successful shows.
Yeah.
You know, if you're lucky enough to get in that door. I just really like that the what's the word I wanted? The structure that streaming services have offered in the last few years for that whole community.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's made it much easier for spec proposals.
Yes.
Like I have a friend here in Berlin who's a writer. He works on television, and he develops things, and pitches them.
Yeah.
You know, and like that is a valid way to get things done these days. Whereas it used to be in TV or movies, it was close to impossible to get anything done that way.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, Netflix is actually actively looking for anybody who has an idea, you know, or all of the streaming services. They're like, we want to do something. Yes, we're producing, you know, the big, like Amazon is doing Rings of Power and Wheel of
Rings
Time.
of Power, and we've got the House of the Dragon, and we've got our big title pieces.
But they're also looking for things that they can try out, smaller, more creative, more interesting things. So, yeah.
I just think we as viewers benefit from it. And so, you know.
I play video games. What can books do? What movies and games can't do? What books are very good being a book?
Being inside people's heads.
I mean, first of all, what games can't do is have a really strict story. Like games have story. A lot of games have stories. Some games don't, but a lot of games have stories. But because you have a player in the middle of the story, you can't keep it. You can't keep it absolutely linear, and you can't say this happens, then this happens, then this happens, without it becoming a boring game. Whereas that's exactly what a book does.
Yeah.
So having a smooth and really, really well polished, worked out plot is something a book can do a lot better than a game.
Curating the way you get the information to create that story.
And for me, the big difference between books and movies is a book allows me to make the pictures in my head of what's going on. And I'm a very visual person. We've talked about this in the past. I get pictures in my head. I get really clear pictures in my head when I read a book. And this was, for example, like when it first came out, this was the huge problem for me with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, because I'd read it so many times and I'm such a visual person. I was like, that is not fucking what Lord of the Rings looks like. Sorry.
Except it totally is.
It's just not.
Yes, it is.
And I've got used to it. Now I'm like, okay, I've still got my picture of Lord of the Rings from the books, but I consider that my book picture.
The Alan Lee illustrations so informed my imaginings when I read it, that the fact that they had Alan Lee doing the art production for the films, and they deliberately married some of those scenes to the illustrations, meant that it just fit seamlessly into my head.
It wasn't wildly off for me, but there were bits of it where I was like, no, sorry, that's not.
For me, it's being in their heads. You know, we can watch a film and we can get an actor give us a performance, but we're not getting that internal monologue that really explains what it is they're thinking. Whereas in a book, you are.
Well, there's that. And then for me, the biggest difference, or I shouldn't say difference, but like the most frequent experience I've had with books that other media really can't do or can't do well is having that thematic conversation.
Yeah.
The one movie, well, one of the very few movies that I describe it as having a literary experience in a film is The Green Knight.
I thought you were going to say that.
With Dev Patel.
Yeah.
It is one of the most visually beautiful, acting-wise beautiful, stunning films. And it is so direct, but also open-ended and left to interpretation for the viewer.
Oh, yeah.
That it's one of my favorite films of all time. It is stunning.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. So that would be like, there are certainly things that books can do.
And ultimately, your imagination has no budget.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, there are. I was just watching the third season of Wheel of Time, and I'm not a Wheel of Time book fan. I DNF'd the first book about 200 pages in. I'm not interested in trying again. Yeah, I just couldn't care less about that series as a book. But I've been watching the series, the TV series, and it's getting to the point where I'm like,
do I want to read the book?
If they had just had like 25% more budget.
Yeah, it could have been great.
And did exactly the same things, just they spent more money on a bunch of things. I would be enjoying this more, because I'm running into a lot of scenes where I'm like, we are now in a totally different place in the world, but I have seen this street before in a different city, because it's the same set.
Yeah.
They just dressed it up slightly differently, but it's recognizably the same street from that other city, you know? And there's just bits and pieces like that where I'm like, it's actually pretty good for fantasy television. And it's almost there as far as budget, but not quite.
It's
not quite there.
Yeah.
You know, it needed
I wonder
a little more budget.
I wonder too with fantasy, how much of it is that the people in charge of production and budgets and things for fantasy TV grew up watching things like Xena and Hercules, where it's no budget and
where
it's
they
really
actually like the cheap aesthetic. Yeah, maybe.
And I kind of wonder how much that's fueling what we're seeing now, because there's the technology is there to have that not to be quite so much of an issue.
Yeah, I would also agree with Christian here. The Book of the New Sun is, I mean, it would be really interesting.
Unadaptable.
I don't think it's unadaptable, because an adaptation is an adaptation. It's not a
successful portrayal of what the book is.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that. I think Book of the New Sun could make a really interesting trilogy of movies. You couldn't do one movie.
Look, I've only read like 2 chapters of Piranesi because I had to go back to the library. You can't make a film of that.
It would be hard. I think you could. Again, you're adapting.
They have an adaptation working on it. Like it's a stop motion company.
Okay.
Coraline. Same company, I think. Actually, it's the same company.
Actually, you say that. Okay.
That could be very cool.
It's a weird film. That could work. That's a very weird film. Very weird book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's less about it being weird and more about like
getting that theme and
Piranesi, even if it was live action, I think it's adaptable.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to clearly read further.
Yeah.
But I'm still on hold at the library.
I mean, some of
wanted by many people.
Christian's right here. Book of the New Sun. A lot of it is the prose, but I think the real thing about Book of the New Sun is the weirdness of the world and how the weirdness of the world expresses the themes, and how there's so much kind of going on under the surface. And I think you could do that in a movie. It would be kind of hard. The biggest problem, I think, would be that if anyone was going to be making it into a movie, they would probably be way too tempted to make everything too obvious so that people actually understand it. And Gene Wolfe didn't give
the level of hand-holding would, Yeah,
Gene Wolfe was like, I'm writing really weird, bizarre shit that has references all over the history of mankind.
I don't care if
You're not
you
going to
get it,
and I don't care. This is what I'm doing.
I
that's
do
part of the
like,
reason the book's really good.
I do like Matt's comment here, not to mention the old Doctor Who. Even the early seasons with Christopher Eccleston and the first couple of seasons with David Tennant, the budget on New Who was very low. Some of those creatures were still a bit dodgy. So, but again, your imagination is strong enough, and if you've got a willing audience, then they will let it go. Like,
and even the New Who, even the David Tennant and Eccleston and whatnot, they still had much better looking budget than the really old Who.
Oh, really old Who was
with
but
Tom
all
Baker
television was about your imagination with really old Who.
Yeah.
So everybody was expected to just accept that. Okay, now imagine these.
See you, Evie. Evie needs to go.
Evie. Cuddles for George.
Thanks for dropping by. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bye.
And the willingness of the audience, it's that willful the willful suspension of disbelief.
Disbelief, yes,
is such a critical part of watching anything that's fictional, and really successful IPs, if you like, or storylines, or whatever you want to call it, the audience gives them that. The audience is like, I
is a
agree
great
to
point.
believe this.
This is a great point. Like, that is one of the most creative things I've ever seen on television. It's like the most terrifying monster on television was literally a statue that didn't move.
You never saw it move.
No, and they have like 6 maybe different ones in different poses, but otherwise it's really just a statue, probably carved out of polystyrene.
No, they were women painted.
Oh, they were actual people.
Yep, they were
okay.
painted
I didn't realize. Okay.
But they had like almost like cardboard clothes, so that it didn't move. There was no movement in the fabric of their gown.
Right.
But yeah, it was.
Samwise. What did I say? I don't know what I said that would have made you gag. Yes, Thornall, the Weeping Angels, exactly.
They were amazing.
They were super cool, and
who was I talking to?
Cost nothing, you know.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to. Oh, I wasn't. It was a bloke who's watching Doctor Who. I like to watch react to things I love, and he's watching Who, and he was like, "Doctor Who is such a weird show." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever people assume it is, they're right, but it's also the opposite.
It's also everything else, yes.
Because Doctor Who is everything. It is silly, it is absurd, it is surreal, and it is deep, and it is meaningful, and it's thematic, and it's scary, and it's funny. It's all of these things together.
And it also,
the writers know they can do anything.
If you compare 2 different episodes, you can have
sometimes
one end of the spectrum and another end of the spectrum. Like, there are episodes. Like, I always called it a silly episode. Like, I'm not that into the silly episodes.
The thematic ones.
Yeah, and every now and then they'll have this run of really, really good, ones. Like, dramatic, intense story, really cool stuff. And then they'll throw a silly episode after like an arc finishes.
Yeah,
and I'm always like, I understand. I don't like the silly episodes. I'm always just like, give me more of the drama,
because
give me more of the excitement.
Traditionally, this family show,
yeah,
they remain in a position where they still keep it accessible for younger viewers. We're not going to make this really deep and meaningful all the time. Sometimes it's just going to be a silly looking monster that being, pure of heart will overcome, because ultimately that's the story of Who. You've got a hero with 2 hearts and no guns.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But that ephemeral nature of what is Doctor Who means the writers can do pretty much anything. And some of their scariest villains are the least outrageous. Yeah. You get a statue, you get scarecrows, they're just nothing things. Mannequins coming to life. That's terrifying.
Or the master. The master is just a smart dude. He's
just a really smart guy.
That's
so it taps into something that's real. That it is the normal everyday things that are the scariest when they turn against you. So the lack of budget has never really held back what Doctor Who is.
Yeah.
Because it didn't ever really need a hugely big budget.
I agree with Rogue here. Many more people should give the actual old Doctor Who a chance.
Yeah, classic Who.
Yeah, really, really classic Who. I grew up on Tom Baker and Pertwee and those guys, and that was Who to me. And when I heard they were making resurrecting it and doing a new Who, I was like, nah, we'll see. I don't know.
Particularly after the movie that exists.
I don't think I saw the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you didn't see 8. 8 was just the movie, and Paul McGann.
No, I don't think I saw that. It wasn't
terrible, but it wasn't really Doctor Who.
I've liked a lot of the new Who though. Like, I was skeptical when I heard they were going to do it, but there's a lot of the new stuff that I've really, really enjoyed. I'm not up on it. I haven't really been following it regularly, but I did a binge for a while and watched like 2 or 3 different Doctors.
Yeah, I lost heart a little bit when they had Jodie Whittaker, but that wasn't because of Jodie Whittaker. The writing that they had during those couple of seasons just wasn't there. She could seriously have done more, and they just weren't giving her the material to work with.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Whereas Capaldi got some brilliant stories, but he also got some really rubbish ones.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we can say this was the great Doctor and this was a great Doctor. This was a great writer and this was a great production team. And it met up, it's you kind of have to accept it and go, okay, it's a whole team. Sometimes it fires and sometimes it doesn't.
Daniel is not necessarily wrong.
No,
the
he's
Doctor Who
not.
fandom is perennially dissatisfied with whatever is currently going on with the show. Yeah, and then they'll later gush
A few
about
years later,
how awesome everything was. Yeah,
I will say that New Who in particular,
describes a lot of fandoms, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
there
not
were
Doctor Who
definitely
specific.
parts of New Who that I loved at the time, and has only got better. There are a couple of things that I've seen people love later, and I look at now and go, no, that was still rubbish. You have to be honest and go, yeah, I'm a fan of this show. Those monsters are stupid.
Yeah.
But I see why they're here, because this is Doctor Who, and sometimes you get stupid monsters.
It's also
That's the point.
That's part of the show. Like Doctor Who is a really, really big box, and everything
Really
is in
big.
it. Everything,
and you have to accept everything that's in there.
And some of the stuff that's in it is garbage, and some of it's genius, and it's just what the show is.
All of it's in the box, and you can't get only part of the box.
And it's what the show has always been. I mean, in the beginning, it was also like every now and then there were just like insanely stupid things going on. Where you were just rolling your eyes constantly, and then there were really engaging, dramatic episodes, and that's
where you're able to use this alien to tell a really compelling story about humanity and what we can achieve, which is what Who does. Which is
and also like the
fiction is trying to do.
The Doctor himself, by being an alien, is the whole point of him is always showing the best that humanity can be. The
observation,
well, and also just what he is. He is not always, but usually an example of how good a human could be. The Peter Cushing Doctor Who films, I have not seen those either. Remakes of the original Dalek stories.
Okay, I'm going to have to Google those.
Indeed, the old Dalek stories were the best part.
They were great.
And the Cybermen. I always liked the Cybermen a lot. Although they were
It was the Daleks that frightened me when I was little.
Yeah.
It was the voice. They frightened me. But again, it's that you're a product of your era. And back then, the idea of machine-like things coming to kill you was terrifying.
Yeah. I think as a kid, maybe this is sort of more of a boy thing about like getting in fights and stuff. I always looked at the Daleks and I was like, it would be so easy to push them over.
But
and then what are they going to do?
The joy of New Who is that, you're like, we're just going to run up the stairs. And then they fly. I nearly cracked myself that first time.
Yeah.
I'm a fully grown adult, but I have childhood memories of fear. Then they flew. I nearly died.
I didn't crap myself. I cracked up. I was like, yes, they eventually had to do it because the Daleks just look like you would just push them. They can only they're only dangerous in one direction, and in every other direction they're easy to push over. Like I was just like, what are you doing? But then they started flying, and I was like, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
is like this pepper shaker,
because they had to address it.
Of course. Eventually, they had to say, no, you can't just push the Daleks over, and no, you can't just run away from them up the stairs. Anyway, let's sprint one more time and get a little reading done. Let's say it's 20 past. Let's read until the hour.
Alrighty.
How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
And make sure you're muted this time. Yeah. Exactly.
I'll move my mouse out of where I can put things on it.
And everybody enjoy your reads and see you at the hour.
Psst, 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 psst.
This is the problem with setting an alarm, which I thought I did. Did I not set an alarm?
That's
Oh,
all
I
right.
did.
I only
Totally the
noticed
wrong
the time for I got a message saying my groceries will be here soon. So.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry, everybody. I completely missed the hour.
Hey, I was trying to be quiet with piss, 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 piss.
I couldn't hear you, but
no, I realized that when I realized that you didn't have your headphones on. I was like, oh,
exactly.
Be a while.
Exactly. Yeah, no, luckily my peripheral vision catches the screen, so people moving makes me look. Anyway, I think it's time to call it for today.
Fair enough, because
11 in the evening here.
I'm nearly here.
Perfect for both of us.
Yes.
Cool. This was a pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad to be back in the pub. I'm glad to see
it's
all
lovely
of you.
to see you.
See all of you in the chat as well. I've missed the pub, and I hope to be doing it every week again like I was for so long.
Awesome. I may not be as present, however. We're about to change our clocks here, which means that this morning was a 7 o'clock start for me. Next week will be a 6 o'clock start for me, and it is Saturday.
Yeah,
so
that is early.
It's early for a Saturday.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty.
I will still get
early.
up early occasionally because I do enjoy your company. So
yeah, I appreciate it. I especially I'm so not a morning person, so I'm always super impressed by anyone getting up and doing anything at 6 or 7. That's not my thing. I am not awake before 9.
I usually find myself at midnight, 1 o'clock going, I should probably go to bed. But that's when I feel most active. And I'm like, no.
I stay up late. I stay up late all the time. Like if I've got a book going or I'm into a game or something, I'll stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning. Easy.
Yeah. It has to be 2 or 3 for me to think that it's late.
Early. Yeah. I will not get up early. Even if I go to bed early, I'm like 8 o'clock is like really early. Especially since I started working
I haven't
from
been
home.
sleeping well, so.
No, I haven't been sleeping very much. Not nearly as much as I should. I've been staying up too late and getting up when Fitz decides she needs to be fed.
Yeah, that's one of the bonuses of having a pet when your own chemicals can't be relied on.
Big furry alarm clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you cannot turn off because they don't have a snooze button.
She will quite literally claw my ass at starting around 9 in the morning. So,
get out of this bed. Yes.
Yeah. I can wrestle with her for maybe an hour and get.
But you're awake at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, it has been a pleasure. I wish everybody a lovely week. It's good to have the pub back. I am glad to be here. I'm glad you are all here. And I hope to see you all next Sunday.
Alrighty.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Same bat channel.